Tide and welcome to Tide TV This Week. I'm Roger Hoover, joined by Kira Goldstein. And Kira, it's time for football once again.
Yes, it is. It's nice to have the weekend off, but I'm ready to get back into Bryant-Denny Stadium this Saturday night.
Well, the Crimson Tide didn't have a game this past weekend, but they have been hard at work preparing for the final month of the regular season. Alabama practiced Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of the bye week and returned to the practice field this week on Monday. Alabama practiced on Monday in shells and Tuesday and Wednesday in full pads as the Tide shifted its focus to this week's opponent, the LSU Tigers.
Roger, we finally have the college football playoffs' first set of rankings this week. The committee released their first rankings on Tuesday. While Alabama is third in the Associated Press and Coach's Top 25, the College Football Playoff Committee saw things a little bit differently. The Playoff Committee ranked Alabama at number 2, just behind number 1 Georgia. Behind Bama, Michigan State was number 3, with Oregon at number 4. Ohio State and Cincinnati round out the top 6. It's not a bad spot at all for the Crimson Tide. Just win, and they're in. A fun fact about the rankings, Roger, the head coaches of the top 4 teams were all on the same staff in 2015. Along with Coach Saban, Kirby Smart was the Tide's defensive coordinator, and Mel Tucker coached the defensive backs. Mario Cristobal was Alabama's offensive line coach that year. It's very impressive right there. That just shows that Coach Saban isn't just good at evaluating players, he's also really good at evaluating coaches too. Absolutely, and this year Coach Saban has 2 coaches who were NFL head coaches last season on his staff. I don't think there's anywhere else in the country that would happen. Don't think so. If the Crimson Tide could run the table in November, they will have a shot to win the SEC championship against number 1 Georgia. Let's take a look at the Tide's remaining schedule. Alabama will play their next 3 games in Bryant-Denny Stadium before closing out the season on the road for the annual Iron Bowl. Alabama will take on LSU this weekend, and then next weekend, the Crimson Tide will play their final non-conference game of the regular season as Alabama will take on the New Mexico State Aggies. Alabama's final 2 regular season matchups will be against the Arkansas Razorbacks, which will be the Tide's final home game of the season, followed by an away game at Auburn on Thanksgiving weekend for the Iron Bowl. This weekend's matchup against the LSU Tigers will take place under the lights inside Bryant-Denny Stadium. Kickoff is set for 6 p.m. The game will be televised on ESPN. It'll be the 86th meeting between the 2 schools, with the Crimson Tide winning last year's matchup pretty handily, 55-17. And next weekend's matchup with New Mexico State will be an early one. Kickoff time is 11 a.m. and that matchup with the Aggies will be broadcast on the SEC Network. This will be just the second time the 2 schools have ever played against one another. The only other meeting took place in 2019 with Alabama winning 62-10 here in Tuscaloosa. It's going to be a very interesting final month of the regular season. The Tide just has to keep winning. Let's take a look at our Crimson Tide and the NFL Players of the Week. What a game for Amari Cooper and the Dallas Cowboys as they were playing without starting quarterback Dak Prescott. Cooper stepped up in a big way with 8 catches for 122 yards and a touchdown. That touchdown happened to be the game winner as Cooper Rush found Coop in the back of the end zone for the score with just 55 seconds left to go as the Cowboys defeated the Minnesota Vikings 20-16. Najee Harris also had a key touchdown for the Pittsburgh Steelers in their win over the Cleveland Browns. Harris rushed for 91 yards and a touchdown. He also added 3 receptions for 29 yards in the Steelers' 15-10 win. And Landon Collins had a big day for the Washington football team. Collins finished with 8 tackles, 5 solo, a sack, plus 2 tackles for a loss. Collins also added a quarterback hurry. Some really great performances this week. Of course, Derrick Henry, the NFL's leading rusher, unfortunately had foot surgery this week. Everything appears to have gone well. It looks like he's recovering, but we really want to see King Henry back on the field. Absolutely. Our thoughts definitely go out to Derrick. And also a big congratulations to all of our Crimson Tide and the NFL Players of the Week. You know, it was a bye week for the Tide, Roger, but there was a big event for the Crimson Tide football team. That's right, Kira. It was Coach Saban's 70th birthday. The GOAT turned 70 on Halloween. Yes, he did. Let's go all access with the Tide as they celebrated Coach Saban's 70th birthday.
Tide TV This Week is presented by the University of Alabama, where legends are made. Ford, for great offers on F-150, see your local Ford dealer. Proud sponsor of the Crimson Tide.
In a season of chaos,
you can tell they authentically play for each other.
Alabama does it. Absolute perfection.
How good can the Crimson Tide be again in 21?
It just doesn't show any sign of slowing down.
It's all about the process.
It's more than a buzz at Bryant Denny.
This guy's not going anywhere.
He doesn't just roll out great players. He and his staff develop them.
Bama's dominance shouldn't scare you. It should energize you.
Welcome back to Tide TV This Week. The Crimson Tide had the weekend off this past week. Now it's time to get back to action inside Bryant Denny Stadium this Saturday night, and the Tide will do that against LSU.
For a preview of the matchup between the Tide and the Tigers, our Christopher England joins us now. Christopher?
Second-ranked Alabama welcomes LSU to Bryant Denny Stadium on Saturday night to preview this weekend's matchup between the Tide and Tigers. I'm joined by former NFL and Crimson Tide quarterback John Parker Wilson. JP, it's great to see you.
You too, man. Always good to be with you.
Man, it's great to be back after a bye week. Now, normally when these two schools meet, it's for the SEC West. Before last season, Alabama and LSU had both been ranked in the top 20 in every matchup since 2007. But this season is a bit different. Ed Orgeron is on his way out as head coach, and LSU enters the matchup 4-4, losers of 3 out of their last 4. Now, it's not the game of the century, but it's still a big matchup, isn't it?
No question. I think this has become a huge rival, especially since Coach Saban got here, and just the success that both teams have had. I don't care what the records are. This is a big game. You ask any fan, it feels like everybody's going to this game. It's going to be a great atmosphere, and, LSU's playing for a lot. I think ever since the announcement about Orgeron has been made, it's been a different team.
Alabama leads the SEC and is second in the nation in scoring offense. The Tide is averaging almost 46 points per game. On the flip side, the LSU defense is 12th in the SEC in scoring defense, allowing almost 29 points per game. They've allowed 733 rushing yards in their last 3 contests and is next to last in the league in pass defense efficiency. This looks to be a pretty good matchup for the Crimson Tide offense, doesn't it?
Yeah, you're exactly right. Bryce has been playing so good in the entire offense. I think we've seen John Mechie show up and emerge as a playmaker that he's been, and really has really grown his game. I think with Jamison Williams, and then, like you said, with the rushing stats, Brian Robinson, I think has a huge ability this game to get some pretty nice rushing yards and just maintain that balance. It's made us so powerful over the past few years in offense, with not only the run, but also the pass and the ability to do those at any time and from any part of the field.
Now, the LSU offense is led by quarterback Max Johnson. He's the son of Super Bowl winning quarterback Brad Johnson. LSU also has the SEC's 7th leading rusher in Tyrion Davis-Price. The Alabama defense has shown flashes of being elite. The Tide is second in the SEC in total defense. How do you see the Alabama defense matching up against the Tigers offense?
I think we've got to just maintain what we've really shown since the A&M game, really efficient against Mississippi State. Had a couple mistakes against Tennessee, but I think overall we're continuing to get better. We're continuing to see guys like Will Anderson just kind of separate himself from the pack, and guys after the injuries from Chris Allen and Drew Sanders, other guys starting to show up. So I think it continues just like every week in the SEC game. It's all about the guys up front, controlling the line of scrimmage and getting pressure on Max Johnson, because he is a good quarterback. He's shown some serious flashes of greatness, and it's about being disruptive at the defensive line this week.
Now, Coach Saban praised the fans after the Tennessee game, and it should be another great atmosphere under the lights in Bryant Denny on Saturday. You being a former quarterback, just how much of an impact can a loud crowd have on Max Johnson and that LSU offense?
It's massive. It really is. And last week against Tennessee was such a fun environment. This game coming up, also another night game with a light show. It's fun. And being quarterback on the road, it's tough. Communication becomes very difficult. And not only the communication, but just the sense, the feel that you get from the fans. It's a real thing, and we've got it going on at Bryant Denny Stadium. The fans have really shown up. The student section, everybody involved has been, I think, an advantage to us. So look to see that continue going against LSU. I know it's a big game, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Well, they always say November is how they remember you, and this can be a start for a great November for the Crimson Tide. Came in number 2 in the college football playoff ranking, so we need to get a good start on Saturday, don't we?
You're exactly right. I mean, crazy things happen in November. We're getting ready for the second part of the season. We've continued to improve, I think, each and every game, especially after the A&M game. So this is about really getting in the flow and continue the execution that we've seen the past couple games.
Well, thanks, John Parker. I appreciate you joining us, and I'm looking forward to Saturday night.
Can't wait. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. Kickoff is scheduled for 6 o'clock in Bryant-Denny Stadium. The game will be televised on ESPN. You can listen to John Parker Wilson, Eli Gold, and the rest of the Crimson Tide Sports Network crew on the radio and on RollTide.com beginning at 3 o'clock. Stay with us. We'll have more Tide TV this week coming up next.
Tide TV This Week is presented by the University of Alabama, where legends are made. Ford, for great offers on F-150, see your local Ford dealer. Proud sponsor of the Crimson Tide.
I love how they have no fear. Man, it's all of them. Everybody's chasing Alabama.
Come on now! Alabama raining down the threes.
The buzzer sounds in Bama Hector. Oh my goodness!
We don't have to be a football score or basketball score. We just win championship.
The job's not finished. We're not done yet.
Welcome back to Tide TV This Week. I'm Kira Goldstein, joined by my co-host, Roger Hoover. Roger, the Alabama soccer team closed out their regular season with their Iron Bowl this week as Alabama took on the Auburn Tigers.
Yeah, after 80 minutes of intense gameplay between the Tide and the Tigers, Alabama found an opening. With just over 8 minutes left to play, Aislinn Stryzik from the corner found the foot of Allie Burke as she slipped it past the goalkeeper for the score. Crimson Tide defense really held strong through the end of the match, and the Tide were able to take down the 19th ranked Auburn Tigers 1-0.
Alabama dropped their first round matchup against Ole Miss in the SEC tournament on Tuesday, 1-0.
You know, with their RPI in the 40s, having played one of the toughest schedules in the nation, and also finishing off 5th in the SEC with 2 big wins over LSU and Auburn, Alabama will now wait to see if they receive a bid to the NCAA tournament. The NCAA selection show will take place on Monday, November 8th at 3:30 Central Time.
Reina Reyes is once again adding to her resume. Last week she was named SEC Defensive Player of the Week, and this week she was selected First Team All-SEC by the league's coaches. This is the second time she has been named to the All-Conference First Team, as she was both a First Team and All-Freshman Team selection in 2019.
The Alabama cross-country team competed at the 2021 Southeastern Conference Cross-Country Championships this past Friday in Columbia, Missouri. While Alabama placed 3rd overall in the competition, they swept the individual titles, with Mercy Shalengat winning her 2nd consecutive title for the women's team, and also Yula Kipsang winning the championship on the men's side. Shalengat and Kipsang also took home course records in addition to their trophies.
Mercy Shalengat is the first member of the Crimson Tide women's team to win back-to-back SEC titles, and her win marks the first time since 1987 and 1988 that Alabama has won consecutive individual titles.
Shalengat and Kipsang's wins also mark the first time since 1988 that Alabama has won the men's and women's races in the same year.
That is very impressive. The Alabama rowing team was in competition here in Tuscaloosa this past weekend. For more on the Tide's rowing team, our Sierra Lynn joins us now. Sierra?
Rowing hosted Clemson for the head of the Black Warrior River on Saturday. It was their Power of Pink regatta and final race of the fall season. Coach Poutre was proud of how the team performed in both the 5K and 1,500 meter races in the challenging weather conditions.
Well, I mean, I'm proud of the team because they came out and they rode really hard in some pretty challenging conditions. We're not used to, we're not used to the cold, we're not used to the wind. So to deal with both those and have some success on the race course was great.
We're going to go yam on it here today.
I think our team as a whole did really well in these weather conditions, and everyone brought their all and attacked each racing piece we had.
I'm so excited to have people out here. We have an awesome venue and a wonderful crowd and team, even from different areas of athletics, and so that's so exciting to be able to have that kind of community.
Thought they learned a lot, and that's the whole point of doing something like this, is to gain some race experience against a quality opponent and learn and get better.
I think taken away, we can see how much more improvement we can make going into the spring. We've put a lot of good work in so far this fall, and I think going into the winter, we can just build off so we can have a really productive spring.
We're finishing our fall with a race against Clemson, and we're going to start our spring with a race against Clemson. So the neat thing about that is that we know where we are now relative to Clemson. Hopefully next time we see him, we'll find ourselves to be better than we are today.
Crimson Tide.
I
can't shoot no brick. 9:30 in the morning. Hustle like I ain't getting no portion. While you was dormant, let you sleep since that's so important. Practice my form, I done broke out of the no.
Hannah Barber.
To the bench.
Taylor shot.
No brick, no.
Welcome back to TideTV This Week. The Alabama women's tennis team wrapped up their fall competition here at home this past weekend as the Tide hosted the Roberta Allison Fall Classic. This weekend, Ludmila Binchak and also Anne-Marie Heiser will close out the fall schedule as they represent Alabama women's tennis at the ITA National Fall Championships, San Diego, California.
The Alabama women's tennis program has had a lot of players move on to have successful pro careers, including a couple that are having great careers in the pros right now. For more on the success of the Alabama women's tennis program, our Kennedy Chase joins us now. Kennedy?
Thanks, Roger and Kira. While speaking with Coach Mines about two particular players in the pros, she kept mentioning how it was a team effort with the combination of the Crimson Tide's top-notch tennis program and their peers to push them every day in practice. Their professional goals were easily attainable.
I think it's a testament to the program, their hard work, their commitment to being an Alabama student athlete. They're very driven, and a lot of them come in and they want to go on and play on the pro tour, which, I think it's very doable. There's a lot of great resources here. They push each other every day in practice. We've got nutritionist, strength coach, from facilities to resources and coaching staff, we've got everything in place.
Alexa Garachi was one of the best players that's ever played at Alabama.
Coach Saban helped recruit her. He met with her on her recruiting trip, and she graduated in 2013, but she made the finals of the French Open last year in doubles, and she's currently ranked number 15 in the world. She's won 6 WTA doubles events, and a lot of that is we all say we help each other out. Coach Saban was instrumental in helping get Alexa Garachi to Alabama.
I think just her commitment to Alabama helped us make a huge leap forward with our program on the national level.
Erin Routliffe played here and finished in 2017, and she was, coming in the door, you could tell that she was going to do special things, and especially in doubles. She won 2 national championships in doubles, one in 2014 with Maya Jansen at Georgia. They won in the finals 0-1.
A lot of people don't know that in 4 years, Erin actually played for 3 doubles national championships, which is historical. But Erin now is playing on the women's tour. She just won her first WTA tour in Italy, doubles title. It was a $250,000, big deal. But she's been making progress, but she made that big breakthrough here recently.
Come on now! Alabama raining down the threes.
The buzzer sounds, and Bama hangs on. Oh, my goodness!
Elliot Kipsang is the individual SEC men's cross-country champion. Chelengott brings home the championship once again over the line.
Plays it in, bodies there, finding the net is Alabama. Alabama has upset 18th ranked Auburn, and the trophy will stay in Tuscaloosa.
Those are our ATI Plays of the Week. Now let's take a look at our Players of the Week, brought to you by Legacy of Hope.
They say Alabama is a championship school, and here's the proof. This week, our Legacy of Hope Players of the Week are a couple of SEC champions.
Mercy Chelengott made school history when she became the first runner from the women's team to win back-to-back SEC titles, and she also finished with a course record time. She is the first female to ever finish the 6-kilometer race at Gans Creek in under 20 minutes, as she finished with a time of 19 minutes and 55.2 seconds.
And Elliot Kipsang took home the men's cross-country SEC championship with a course record as well. Kipsang finished the 8-kilometer race with a new record time of 23 minutes and 33.5 seconds. It's only the second time in school history that Alabama has won both the men's and women's cross-country SEC titles in the same year. Very impressive for them. A big congratulations to Mercy and Elliot, our Legacy of Hope Players of the Week.
And make sure you join us next week as we bring you more on the Crimson Tide, plus the all-access content of Alabama you can't get anywhere else. See you next week, everybody. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
This has been a presentation from Learfield,